Wow, what an audience. I think I stand between you and these. But I'm told authoritatively the deal's done. So forgive me while I just take some water and look at you for a second. Now, I've never done this, ever. I've never actually been to a graduation. I missed my doctoral graduation. In fact, I think they were very irritated with me when I did miss it, because there aren't very many given out at Oxford at that time. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much. Professor Shai, Orit, Professor Christensen, Professor Tischler, thank you very much for the invitation. This is a wonderful invitation for me, actually, as I said. It's a privilege, a true privilege for me to be here today. The Kellogg-Recanati School is well known. I know there's only 800 plus graduates, but you made an impact, trust me. And for you, the 16th graduating class, that's pretty impressive. Your family's behind you, and there's a little baby there somewhere, isn't there? A wonderful little person. So that underlines who you really are. And so I'd like to say, just to begin with, congratulations, graduates. You guys did it. Fantastic. And you should really feel tremendously proud, beyond measure, actually. Completing any study, any program of study is noteworthy. However, completing an executive MBA program is particularly difficult and admirable. No doubt some of you, your very nice sponsoring employers said to you when you came to them with this idea, I want to get educated, I want to do more education, they said, great, go for it. I bet that happened, right? I also bet that you were then expected to accomplish 100% of your jobs, as well as, and look after your families, right? This is non-trivial. You deserve the praise that you're hearing and the pride that you're feeling in this very significant academic achievement. Each one of you and your family sacrificed time, money, and effort, fueled, I assume, by hope and aspiration for more secure, more prosperous, and more fulfilled future. I did hear the more prosperous side being emphasized here. You're now graduates, or you'll shortly be, but as I say, the deal's done. You are now graduates of a very special school, a community of graduates from all parts of Israel and abroad. You join a community of business leaders that stretch around the globe, and you have jobs and are surely about to get even more senior jobs. Actually, perhaps I should enroll for 2014. This is a marvelous moment. And I note there's a lot of media here. So I highly respect the fact that you managed to inspire such a great media interest. I know when I graduated medical school, it was hardly mentioned in the local university magazine. So just to keep the media tuned in during my speech, I'll just address 2 minutes. With your permission, I just want to say a couple of words. Is that okay? Great. You guys should know I'm very proud of my former role as CEO of Teva, a company which is so brilliantly built by Eli Horowitz, whose annual memorial ceremony I attended last week. Wonderful ceremony. And a true source of pride for Israel, a true source of pride. Teva is a company built around nearly 47,000 people, hardworking, dedicated employees, together with a strong, determined management. Actually, I see quite a few of them up there. I salute you guys. I think you're terrific. I wish you well in your next steps. It was one of the great privileges of my career, professional career, to work with people of this extraordinary caliber. And if you have a chance, meet them. They are terrific. Thank you for the rare opportunity to work with individuals who truly are so galvanized by success. As for myself, as you all know, I made Aliyah, and I'm currently unemployed. So if any of you have any interesting offers, and by the way, I've got my CV if you'd like to see it. On a serious note, in the near future, I plan on dedicating my time to exploring Israel, one of the most fascinating countries in the world. and to meeting Israelis of all kinds and enjoying all of what this amazing country has to offer. And I'd like to say thank you to all of those who wrote the hundreds and hundreds of supporting letters which you received, which reminds me of something quite remarkable, if you didn't know it already, of the remarkable warmth and love that there is in Israeli society. It is something special, and I'm proud to be an Israeli myself. Now, getting back to the matter of the day, you, the graduates. As I was saying, this is truly a marvelous moment. This isn't a moment in your life where you can write your own story and open new doors. I encourage you to pave your way and always keep in mind a couple of lessons that I do for myself. Number one, follow your heart. Number two, dream big. Number three, learn from your mistakes. And significantly, value loss as a teacher. Today, graduation day, you should internalize and live those lessons. Follow your heart, dream big, learn from your mistakes, value loss as your teacher. These lessons are important to all business leaders, and yes, it is true and that I can speak to each of these. I followed my heart was in Israel. My goal was to return to a country I'd lived in first in 1967, and I deeply love it. And I came back to work to improve not just health and global health, but to contribute to this country. However, in thinking about you, all of you, the special group that sits in front of us today, and considering you as the graduating class, I note that actually you're unlike any other graduates from any top business school. And you can ask, why is that? You're graduates not just from the combined degree of the Kellogg-Recanati International Executive Program, you're also graduates of the Middle East. You are graduates of one of the most complex geopolitical regions in the world. This makes your journey much more significant and meaningful. Here in the Middle East, you can and hopefully will make a difference, each one of you. My remarks today are generally applicable to all business leaders, but today, I ask your forbearance, I want to particularly address those of you who will be actors in this region. You may not know my background. My father and mother was an anti-apartheid activist in South Africa and Rhodesia from the 1950s through to his premature death from circumstances we do not know in 1977. At one point as a child, my family was forced to flee our home in the country in the middle of the night when my father received word that he was to be arrested the next morning. It took us about 2 hours to pack and run. As somebody who fled apartheid and political oppression in Africa, and who is part of a family that's committed itself to human rights and democracy, I am acquainted with people who make a difference in complex geopolitical environments, like you. And there's one reason I came to this remarkable democratic country, with the intent to contribute and to be part of this nation, a very special nation. Now, similarly, throughout this talk, I'm going to encourage you to use your abilities that you've already demonstrated with your new academic knowledge to help build a robust economy and, by extension, a robust democracy. We see around us the collapse of other societies that do not celebrate diversity and do not deliver the advancements their people need. Again, to those of you who will work in Israel or in the region, on your collective shoulders rest more than the future of the local economy, more than the future of your wealth. To make this region stable and sustainable, I believe we must all commit ourselves with laser-like focus to solving internal challenges unique to Israel and the area. We must educate, for example, all sectors of the society and do this through higher grading. We must include and integrate all people, be they Christian, Muslims, Jews, Haredi, Druzim, Bedouin, Ethiopians, and others. Every group needs to be both have an honored place in society and a meaningful stake in the economy. This is a challenging task. But I believe that with respect to Israel, they're key to a democratic, fair, and stable society. One built on sustainable economy, an economy that will generate jobs at every level, one that will have enough revenues to underwrite both security and domestic needs, and one that will have enough educated workers with the knowledge of core subjects required to staff the jobs that will provide the wealth, the engine, and one that will have a higher quality of life for all its citizens. All people and all sectors of the Israeli population and each social group must flourish for Israel to flourish. And the same is true and just as relevant for all countries in the region. If you lead this region, then you are key to achieving a much wider and bigger objective. Now, as you think about your role, consider that your journey is not just a CV, not just a collection of degrees, jobs, and experiences. It's about your purpose, what you are and how you behave. At every turn, you must stand up to the values that you support. You will always need to fall back on the core of who you are and what you believe in, always. Every decision you make, remember your values. With every organization at which I have worked, my core values offered a moral compass. Adhering rigorously to your core values will cause you to build much better businesses. And today, again with your permission, I'd like to take you through what I regard are the critical core values. You're very well educated. I'm not going to even try and address that. You're much better educated in the core elements of business than I am. But I want to provide for you some of what I regard are the core values that I hope will remain unassailable in your business life, no matter where you practice, and especially if you practice here in the Middle East. And these values are important for you to become something more than graduates, but rather the future leaders of this nation and related nations, setting an example that will spread from the business environment through the fabric of all life in this region. You have a very important role. The first core value that I hope you will adopt is to drive innovation and take risks. In fact, when I read your bios, I recognized that many of you come from industries that drive innovation, and it's already a deeply valued concept that you have underlying you. In fact, I've told by your professors that this particular class is particularly strong in this. So my congratulations to you. You've really impressed these guys. Certainly, in Israel, the high-tech innovation capital of the world, it wouldn't seem necessary to preach about business creativity, but I want to drive it home. Recently, the Inspector General's annual report documented that, in fact, Israel, and I would argue the greater region, is a tale of two cities. While some portions of the society exhibit a high level of innovation, others have a lot to progress and are still progressing. Whether you are in high-tech or another industry, sooner or later you'll come to a point where driving innovation is more aspirational than real. You can't allow this to happen. You must not let this happen. Innovation is real. You need to make it happen at all levels of the business, in processes, in products, in business models, in building teams, in every element of the commercial model. The ability to innovate is core to your success, but it goes further than just innovation. You need to be ready to take risks. You know the facts. Only about 14% of the Fortune 500 companies around in 1955 are still on the list 56 years later in 2011, an astonishing attrition. Many that dropped out failed to evolve, but one of the key elements in that failure to evolve was the failure to take the risk of innovating. Very important. In Israel, we see entrepreneurs who innovate, and who take the developmental risk. In fact, this morning I heard from President Perez, I understand there are 13,000 businesses and entrepreneurs in Israel alone. It's an astonishing figure, astonishing figure. These create immense value. Israel has great reason to be proud of this tremendous contribution. We see entrepreneurs who impressively create novel technologies and who sell it to leading companies in their industries. It's extraordinary, actually. To me, however, it will be even more gratifying when one or more of these startups are not just developed here, but are commercially exploited by scaling massively in place. And I urge us all to think carefully how to gradually transition from being not just this amazing engine of innovation, but also to take the risk of being a locus, a center for scale growth. This is a complicated issue, I don't doubt that, and requires different strategies, including relooking at policies to further encourage capital investment in IP-related taxes, at least. Secondly, I want to talk about passion. No, not that passion. I want to talk about deep passion. The core value, the one that resonates most with me. And it's perhaps best detailed in an experience that I had as a young doctor in a riot-torn area of South Africa. It was in 1985, at a time of enormous turmoil and conflict. I was working at a hospital near Cape Town, and there were hundreds of patients streaming into the hospital with stab wounds and gunshot wounds. Each was a story. Each was its own tragedy. And then one man, Ibrahim, was brought in near to death. He'd been shot in the back by a high-velocity rifle bullet, with almost no hope of surviving. But we worked on him for 6 hours. 6 precious hours. He died. But during that 6 hours, not a single member of the team working on this patient in the corridor that served, and it was a corridor, there was no operating room, served as our operating, dreamt of leaving him. Committing everything we had to him was our passion. In the morning, his body disappeared. All the paperwork regarding his death disappeared. All seemingly taken away by the regime. But his memory, and the memory of the 3 nurses and the 1 very junior medical student who worked with me, never did. That memory has never died. Ibrahim changed us. All of us. And on that very moment, I understood what passion meant, and I kept it through my life. In those 6 hours, we were driven by passion for our work, our mission, despite distractions and actually impossible odds. At that moment, we focused on a single purpose, one goal. Now, I wish you that same illogical, extreme passion for your work. Take it with you. I wish that you wake up and every day that you know what you're doing is exactly what you should be doing. That clarity of mission will allow you to bring intensity, focus, and creativity to your work. So I ask you, bring no half measures to your passion. There is no half. It can only be whole. Now, my passion is about making people healthier. This is grounded in the belief that a true democracy depends on a healthy population. Perhaps this strikes you as quite a philosophical leap. I believe the definition of a democratic nation is a population that is secure and well-educated, is healthy, is subject to modern laws and an equitable judicial system, and which works within the framework of a balanced economy. So for me, my passion to make people healthier fits into a larger passion, a larger puzzle, born of my experiences in my past and my belief, absolute belief, in a better future. So when you find your passion, ask yourself, how does this fit into a larger narrative? How can I contribute? How can I change the world? The third, and I've only got 4, The third value that should underpin your actions is ethics. Ethics are the framework with which we operate under law. They also are core to your reputation. A core attribute, reputation is a core attribute of a company's and a successful business. And I'm not really the first to talk about this. You know this. You know about the indispensable role of ethics. About 2,500 years ago, Socrates says, regard your good name as the richest jewel you can possibly be possessed of. For credit is like fire. When once you have kindled it, you may easily preserve it. But if once you extinguish it, you will find it an arduous task to rekindle it again. A fundamental truth. Recognize that an ethical corporate culture is grown organically from within. It comes from within each one of you. A company that can impose policies, it can build a compliance department, the CEO can advocate for an ethical underpinning, but ultimately, achieving an ethical culture will depend on each individual adhering to his or her ethical code. And it's so important you recall it. It's you. It's you. It's not a piece of paper. It's you. Each one of you, and this is what's important, each one of you will face a moment when you'll need to reach into yourself, truly reach into yourself, and ask if what you're about to do meets the standard of what your heart and soul tells you is ethical. You will need to decide, and what you decide, and once you decide, you'll not be able to take it back. The decision to behave ethically is a moral one, and may actually involve rejecting the route that would lead to the biggest short-term profit, at times at great cost to the individual, but definitely to the long-term gain of the most successful businesses. Unethical behavior is damaging. You know and you've seen it. We've learned, in fact, even including this last week, that American, British, and other companies, including some that have the highest and best names, have been accused of unethical and illegal behavior. They've experienced immense erosion of shareholder value, billions of dollars in fines and restitution, in addition to the loss of credibility and reputation, as the alleged unethical behaviors come to light. Of course, the law will establish innocent or guilt in these cases, but it serves as a reminder of the centrality of ethical behavior. For you, that's critical. Make ethics your foundation. That said, good ethics must operate within a framework of good governance, which is the fourth and last business value I want to highlight for you. Governance is not an obscure concept. As leaders of your organizations, you must focus on governance in management, and should you be there at the board level. To succeed in the global economy, companies must understand and adhere to accepted best practices, including core principles of governance. Of course, a sole owner of a company can lead that company and govern its action alone. After all, it's his or her own money. But even then, I wouldn't advise it, particularly once the business has reached a certain scale. Your responsibilities go way beyond the individual. But once a company is public, fiduciary responsibility and a duty of care to shareholders takes complete preeminence over all other obligations. For managements and boards to be effective, they need to be able to both debate in private and then act transparently. Stakeholders must understand and believe that a responsible and orderly decision-making process is followed. They have a right to be familiar with and confident in the process. That said, the content of such decisions are the prerogative of the company, of course, and should remain proprietary. And I think a very important concept that you should perhaps also attach to this is the degree to which governance is followed and will strongly influence the culture of an organization. I'm sure that each one of you feels the culture of your organization. Each one of you knows the soul of your organization, right? When you walk into another company, it's got a different feeling, doesn't it? That soul, that culture is critical. It's what makes the difference in a good company and a bad company. In actual fact, there's no real point in talking about life lessons and core values unless you pay attention to the fact that they all drive culture. And this, to me, culture, is the strongest asset of them all. The asset that you can and should build. Great companies are led by great leaders. Great leaders understand and conceive of great strategy. But they also understand that these strategies must be implemented by people. And the human behavior is completely conditioned by culture. And it's only when those leaders empower and motivate people in an enriched culture that those strategies can be implemented fully and build truly great companies. You can do this. You know it. You feel it. You feel it at home. You feel it in business. You can and must grow your business culture. In Israel today, we must focus not just on educating business leaders, but ensuring they get the opportunity to learn from many sources, including those that we attract from abroad. And that's what makes your program so wonderful. It's the interchange of ideas and different people from different parts of the world who can really contribute. And that begins to enrich culture. And at the same time, and this is important, at the same time, leaders that you are must encourage development of a learning organization within the companies that you live and work. So as you become graduates, you're not going to take just a mantle, which is great, by the way, and a gown, and that's great, it's very pretty, thank you very much, I like it, or a certificate. You're taking on a special responsibility and a future of immense possibility. Each one of you is a repository of knowledge, not just a library, but a repository. I urge you to go back not to manage, but also to teach. Go back into your role. Your role is critical. If you do that, then you're a leader. You have and definitely have the know-how that you gained before you came here to this course. The knowledge that you imparted from the course is now with you. And you got that from the professors at the Kellogg-Recanati and working together as teams. And soon you're going to have the insight gained from the product of these ingredients. Go back to your working lives, become teachers. That is part of the leadership that will go beyond mere management, far beyond. And that is core to your becoming great leaders. So, dream big, very big. Follow your heart. Never betray your heart. Learn from your mistakes, and you'll make them for sure. Value loss as your teacher, because that is one of the greatest teachers you'll ever have. And here, in the Middle East in particular, drive innovation and creativity. Bring no half measure to your passion. That's the thing that's going to take you through every single tough moment. Make ethics your foundation. You will face every difficulty down with the bedrock of your ethics. And stand strong on good governance. And then lastly, I'd say to you, consider how your actions can give back, how your actions contribute to nation building for everyone. Oh yes, last but not least, I leave you with one more thought. Make darn sure you write a good employment contract. That's it. Congratulations, graduates. Well done.